When you think of propaganda, what do you think? Do you think communism? Oh, that's communist propaganda. Well, communists have propaganda. Communism is nothing without propaganda. It's all empty promises. It never actually attains anything worthwhile. So the only reason there's still the idea around is because of propaganda. But have you ever thought of capitalist propaganda? Do you think there isn't any? No, I'm not telling you about the billboard telling you to replace your windows with some overpriced company or something like that. Not that capitalist propaganda, but the propaganda that makes you feed into the capitalist system. And see, the thing is about capitalism, you're only a capitalist if you make money off of money. If you make money out of labor, you're just a worker. You're not the capital. So to understand capitalist propaganda, you got to break down the word. Well, capitalism has the same root of capita, per capita. What does per capita mean? Per individual. It's individualism. You own individual wealth. Each individual has their own wealth. So what we say is we're all separated, divided, we fall, right? I mean, we're all divided, but the people at the top know this and they control the capital. And so what happens is this. You're fed into this idea that when you're 18, you move out of your house. Well, why? Well, because then you got to go pay a landowner rent. And they're rent seekers. They have capital, they own a property, and you go work and then you give them you're working for their home. You could have stayed at home and saved up the money as a family, but see, we don't talk about family wealth because it's per capita capitalism. It's not family capitalism or familyism, it's capitalism. Do you think that royalty became powerful by paying other people rent for their property? No. You see the design of the system? So then you're renting and you get tired of listening to someone else. So what do? You want to buy your own property. So you go out and you work and you build up a record of slaving for someone else and you're a good cog in the wheel and eventually you're going to get your own house so you can start a family and you can pass something down to your kids. Well, the funny part is you're just going to kick your kids out when they're 18 and make them start the cycle again, but we won't get to that yet. So what do? You go to the bank and you ask for a loan, and what happens is the money that you get from the loan, it comes out of nowhere. It doesn't exist. The bank just tells you, "Oh, there you have it." And then you turn around and you have to pay what's called usury. You have to pay interest on that money that's not even theirs. They didn't make it. They didn't earn it. You're just paying them because they click something on the computer screen and just change numbers on an account. That's all that happens. Now, I can't dig too much into this, but talking about, there is Second World War, there's Nazi propaganda as well. And the original propaganda was about usury. Hitler, on like day one, he banned usury under punishment of death. And then what happened is, see, Hitler was on Time magazine a few times. And people don't ask why. Well, the one time he was on there was called the economic miracle. He took Germany out of Great Depression and turned it around in a couple years. And we don't ever talk about that because a big part of any form of propaganda is censoring opposition. Well, the opposition to capitalism is saying, hey, wait a minute, usury, you got rid of usury, and all of a sudden people could afford to live. They could afford houses, they could afford families, like all this stuff. There was full employment. It was called the economic miracle, but I'm going to shut up now because we're not allowed to say anything nice about that man. And just so you know, and I'm definitely not digging into this, a lot of what we see of him was because he did that. He challenged the banks and who controls everything to this day. Just think of this in your head. We were told in America because we tried to be isolationists. We like World War One. We're like, we don't want to do that again. We were told we had to go to war against Hitler because he wanted to wage endless wars. So we defeated him, and then we've been at war ever since. Isn't that funny? Wait, how did we end up in endless war anyway? Oh, he was saying the banks wanted endless war, and they won. And then we had endless war. Anyway, I'm going into thought crime territory now, and TikTok doesn't want me to say anymore. So you create this money. Well, that money flows right up to the top. They always wind up with it. So you're just making the top richer and richer, but you have to pay that money back with interest. So it's not the price of the house. You buy a house for 100,000 or now it's 100 million for a house, but you then have to pay interest on top of that. So you don't just pay the value of the house, you end up paying several times the value of the house to somebody that never even had anything to begin with. That's our system that we live in. I mean, I shouldn't say they never even had anything. They didn't have any of that money. It's not like they went out and earned that money and then risked their capital, because what happens is if you can't pay it, they can write it off. Like the money comes in and out. They write off loans all the time. I mean, Trump, that's why he declared bankruptcy. He's just like, oh, no more debt. Do you think the bank goes out on their own and does it? They just have to prop the overall system up. And that's why the bankers are all in it together, maintaining an illusion based on so much capitalist propaganda that you can't even see it, because you're a fish swimming in water where the water is capitalist propaganda. Like, you're taught to make fun of people that live with their family, and it's like, well, why would I pay someone else? Why not keep the money in the family? That's capitalist propaganda. They're like, go live by yourself lonely and eat TV dinners. You know, other countries, they live with their family when they're single. They get married and then they move in together, like, and it's normal. Why in America is it such a big deal to not live like that? Like, think about it. How many families have a parent, the grandparent, in a nursing home bored all day that just wants to see the grandkids? Then you send your kids off to be indoctrinated in public school where they're taught how to do all sorts of wacky things. Why not just have the grandparents teach them math, reading, writing, and arithmetic, and then sit with them on the internet and explore together and form their own relationship? Let the parent live in the house, stop paying taxes to the school, stop paying all this money to a retirement home that is abusing them. They're bringing in foreign workers and everything who hate us, and they're like, there's videos of people getting abused in there. They give them like medicine to shut them up. Like, it's horrible living in there, and this is our society. But capitalist propaganda, because there's money to be made off of the separation, and you don't want your parents living with you. I mean, they're only your family. They brought you into this world, you know, they gave you life. What do you owe them? And you never thought of it this way because of capitalist propaganda everywhere, where it's like, well, we just don't do that. So, like, for instance, why not have your parents do the loan with their savings, and that way the money stays in, and then you can pay them, and you can pay them interest so they don't have to work as much, and you're supporting your parents because they supported you when you were younger. This is how turnabout could be happening within society if it weren't for that pesky capitalist propaganda everywhere. I'm not saying like you just stay in your home forever. Like, you can go out for some time in your 20s and enjoy single life by yourself, partying it up and doing what 20s, and then you say, yeah, you know what? Like, sell my parents' house. We're gonna buy a bigger property. We'll have a farmhouse on it. We'll put a little side guest house on it where they can live, and then we'll have farms, and they'll teach the kids during the day, and you can homestead, and you can be your own family, and then you could talk to other families, and you can be like, hey, other families, we're gonna do school, and like, Grandpa Jim or whatever is gonna run. He's gonna teach everybody woodworking today. And then here comes me. I'll show up and teach them how to buck the whole system and break it all down with some propaganda. We can do propaganda lessons in my neighborhood and teach the kids how to do this right from a young age. But no, we don't do that. See, you go to public school to teach you how to be a cog in the capitalist wheel. Like, you're trained to sit 8 hours at a desk from the time you're a kid under fluorescent lights, doing things that mean nothing. I mean, you have to regurgitate the lies that the teacher tells you. Like, I remember they told us that, like, Senator McCarthy was lying about communists. No, there really were communists. He was right. And then in school, they're like, he was wrong. Why does the state, do you think the state's going to make you powerful? No, they're going to hold you down. I mean, the public school wasn't it Rockefeller, I think, did the public school system because he wanted to train people to already be ready to work in his factories at god awful jobs. And then if you're like me and you're working in the system and you're making all this money in your 20s, you're like, oh, this is easy. And then you're like, hey, wait, you know, this is kind of empty. I want to give something more to society. You end up getting medicalized because it's called delusions of grandeur, flight of ideas, which is like they call that bipolar disorder. Like, when you have a bunch of ideas, that's called bipolar disorder. Like, think of that, by the way. And then they drug you, and the drugs like make it hard for you to think, and they put a social stigma on you because none of the other cogs in the wheel work for you. And it's like, hey, friend, you have this skill, you have this skill. Why don't the three of us just work together as a side job and turn it into our own business? Oh, well, are you taking your meds? Well, yeah, sometimes. I mean, I take them when I need them. I know what they do. I don't have to take them all the time. I don't have a Haldol deficiency. I sometimes can't sleep, and then I need Haldol. But the reason I have to take it is because I can't tell you guys what's inside my head. I'm having a flight of ideas trying to share them, and the whole system shuts me up because I'm fighting all this capitalist propaganda that used Sigmund Freud to psychoanalyze us and tell you you were the problem. Well, you sitting under the fluorescent lights all day doing nothing and sitting in a thing and having no money for a house or family or anything, that's your fault. That's capitalist propaganda. Now you can see it. Once you see it, you can wake up out of the matrix. Follow me and I'll tell you what to do with this knowledge to really get you out. 10-4 over and out. Have a good day.